All right, everybody. I know that the Postman video itself is not the most enthralling topic in the world, but it is pretty necessary to make sure that we can test everything very thoroughly as I continue to develop on this project. So let's go ahead and do what I wanted to do, what I wanted to use its purpose for, which is making sure that my API works, because right now we've tested out a couple of auth queries, but I need to ensure that I can actually create things now. So let's go ahead and jump right to it. So we've got plenty of our auth stuff, tested out very thoroughly with Postman, but we have nothing for our API except for the pet image uploader. But let's go ahead and, get some actual functionality tested out. So I will create my usual Postman structure here, which is naming my folders the same as my API router paths. It just helps create a much more organized, nicer space. So let's go ahead and do that. And we will make a request here to create a household. And then our collection variables here. I did add in a user ID one here. And so after registering, it saves this UUID here. And that means that we can use user ID as a variable all throughout my requests, which is just another convenience feature. That's kind of the nice part about having these collection variables. So, all right. So in order to create a household, we needed a name, and there wasn't a whole lot of info, but let's double back just to double check. We just need a name and an owner ID. So we just run through the creatable household schema to validate when we're running our post request to validate that it has this sans what the database generates. So we're using the Zod partial validator here to say like, okay, well, you can take this schema and just excise these bits out of it. And what's remaining is what I should enforce as true. So we need a name and an owner ID. And so name here. Got La Casa and Mango Street. Don't know why that was the one that came up in my head, but I was trying to think of like a clever, fun name for a house, and that was a book we read in high school Spanish. And then I don't know why Postman syntax highlighter isn't working, but if we do hover over it, it does show we've got our collection variable user ID in the current value. So yes. All right. And that gives us a household. And then honestly, what I'm going to do here is just kind of daisy chain a bunch of variables. I will have a household ID variable, and I'm just going to manually paste that value in for now. And the nice part is if you're just doing some very simple tests like I'm doing here, you can more or less copy paste them. It can be pretty formulaic, especially if you're just doing a quick like few response values. So boom, there we go. So this is the returned household ID. If it exists, we use it to set that Postman variable. And yeah, we did get a 201 because we created something, so I do need to modify that status code here to reflect that. but we can also verify in our database. Households, and cool. I was like, I don't recall writing any user households routes. We don't need to though. Yet, if you're temporarily authorizing a user's access to your home, like if you have somebody pet sitting for you, or if you're pet sitting for someone, I will have to make some routes for that because that's what the intent of this table is. But by default, when you create one, you are also auto-assigned that in your households. So cool. Excellent. So we can test out the household creation functionality, which is fantastic. Let's go work on the pets next. So we need to be able to create a pet. And a pet will belong to a household. So that's why it's important we have that household ID. So let's go ahead and I'm going to control drag this, which in other systems will duplicate, but it doesn't here. Okay, well, that's just a normal drag. Well, what I'll do is I will use Control D or right click duplicate to duplicate it, and then change this to create pet. Which, like I said, if you are doing a lot of like rote, repetition here, it's actually not too bad because you can duplicate a lot of your tests. And so I won't set a variable up for a pet ID per se. I might at a later point if I want to get really in depth with this testing. But I mean, we're going to be working with multiple pets here, so I really don't want to restrain testing to a singular pet. Yet again, that's one of those things that's like future Andrew, decision. But for now, creating a pet should return an ID at least. And then for the body of that, we've got a lot that we have to validate. So if we come down here, ID, image URL, created at, updated at, we leave out. So we just have name, species, birth date. Wait, household ID. Okay. Name, species, name, species, birth date. Let's see. Say like August 15th is when we celebrate. She'll be 16. So she's an old gal. Name, species, birth date, weight. And we'll assume pounds is the default one here. It is a string stored in the database, so we can also we'll just do pounds. And then household ID. Do I have to go hunt down that UUID? Negatory, because we have that collection variable. So let's see if we can take that info and create a pet. Let me change my auth code. Actually, let me Switch off my screen for a second because I have to open up my ENV. And for my ENV, I actually do have some semi production-ish keys here. Yeah, my JWT expiration is 10 minutes. We're going to change it up to 60, at least for development's sake. So I hate when VS Code tries to format environment variables or ENV files. Okay. Well, I've got that saved now, and let me just log back in again. Boop. Logged in. Let me create a pet. Let me see what it's complaining about. Oh, wait. Haha, wait. I set up weight to be a number. If we look back at the schema. Okay. Easy peasy. All right, and I didn't know what format Zod would take for a date. Okay. Well, let's see. I'm just manually making an ISO 8601 string. And see if it's good with that. Let's see. Also, why are these all unhandled errors? All right, so we filter through the is valid pet middleware. Instead of throwing an error, are they doing process exit? Well, let me see where this is actually getting thrown. As always, we can do something like logging here lamel. All right, and then we shouldn't see that anymore because it's failing at the birth date. Or rather, sorry, we should be seeing it there, but why is it crashing the app? All right, well, I'll look a little more in depth at that later. For now, let me change the validation to reflect just a string. So schemas, pets, birth date. Just have it as a plain string instead of the date time. All right, well, that should let me create a pet. Excellent. So we get Lucy's info back. And then Luna's would be something like that. Oh, I said I have a 50-pound cat. That is not factual. Scout. I don't know specifically her birth dates. Let's see. And her sister. It's a few months later. All right, well, we can create pets. They are now part of my household. And so everything is actually starting to come together pretty nicely here. Our next step would be adding some medications. So let's go ahead and do just that. All right. Now, medications are not something that just exists in the database as is. It is a property inherent to a specific pet. So insulin as a medication for one pet is distinct from insulin as a, medication for another pet. And let's see. That lets you get really granular with like dosing for a specific pet. We just get really, really explicit with everything. All right. So we need the pet ID, dosage amount, dosage unit. Crap, those are all parts of the database, or dosage unit is something that I need to have previously established. Which I do. Okay, yeah, never mind. All right. So, medications, we need raw JSON here. The name of this medication is going to be under name. The pet ID, dosage amount, dosage unit. All right, what else is required? We've got Let's see, created on notes and dates, start dates. Okay, that's actually just all of our required props at the moment. So let's see. Name is Insulin. Pet ID is gonna be, gotta go pop over to our database for that. Did it copy the entire row? Oh well, we'll find out. Oh no, cool. So we have Scout's pet ID here under the name of Insulin. For this medication entry, the dosage amount is 2 because she is receiving 2 units, and the dosage units table there we go. Let's see, we've got a Zod error saying missing some of the properties. What's missing here? Let's see, ID. Name is required, pet ID is required, dosage amount is required, dosage unit is required. Start date is not, end date is not, notes are not, created at, updated at are not. Did I type in one of the properties? Very, very likely. Dosage amount, dosage unit, name. Dosage amount, dosage unit, it sure looks like creatable medication does have everything here. I wonder if in my middleware I used the wrong schema. No, I do have creatable medication here. No error is getting logged. What is missing? So we're getting invalid data or missing some of the properties. Oh, wait a sec. This isn't a Zod error. I was previously doing my own validation, wasn't I? Yep. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead, re-enter some of this. There we go. We get a medication entry. And so the intent of this is a medication for a specific pet. It is not a scheduled medication. That's what the distinct medication schedules table is for. So that will let us say, okay, well, this medication ID, insulin 2 units, is to be administered at 8 a.m. And that's a separate medication schedule from an 8 p.m. thing. So we'll have 2 distinct entries there. That way, instead of having like a column or 2 on this table that says like administration time 01, administration time 02, which does not scale all that well, horizontally, your table just gets really ugly. It's a little more work, but we get much better vertical scaling by having it in a medication schedule table and allowing that one medication to be entered anywhere from 0 to infinity many times. So excellent. So we've got that, and now I can, let's see, and for the tests here, like a lot of the time with my API structure, I'm just returning the status code and the UUID of what was just created. So my tests almost could just be copy pasted with more or less just a change in the string, for example, of like what tests being run. So that's very nifty. But we've got her medication done. Let's go take a look at some others. Let's see. Actually, don't know how to spell that. Amitriptyline. Is going to be for Luna, so I need to go get her pet ID. And yes, my cat is on a medication for human schizophrenia. She gets a little toned down. She's a little high strung. And it does absolute wonders. All right. So we've got Luna's, and let's see. And she gets 7.5 milligrams of it in liquid suspension. But the actual dose should be listed as, I'm going to say milligrams. All right. Cool. So Luna's got her medication. And, oh boy, I need to go get some of Lucy's. That's going to take a hot minute to add all of hers because she's on a handful at the moment. Sweet old girl. Let's see, first and foremost. And I really don't know her doses and everything, so what I'm going to do is just do one, and then I'll say insert into dosage units, name, value, and then I'll say as written here, so that way we have just like a string description field, I guess. But yeah, we'll do that for this dosage unit. All right. So I'm going to copy that. For the dosage unit, it's going to be 1 as written for Lucy's meds. So gabapentin, Proin, I think. Yep. We've got gabapentin, Proin, DES. Let's see, what else? Sulfasalazine. All right. And then the rest are like supplements. So like that's like medication. But whoa, this is huge. Like we've gotten so much done just by setting up, some postman tests. I actually have real data here. If we go look at medications now, I can actually retrieve all of these entries. And if I wanted to, could start writing some queries to like aggregate that data. So, select all from PetsP, or let's see. we'll select all from medications, and then we'll join medications. On medication.petID equaling the pets. What am I doing? This is a very sloppy query. All right, so we're joining in the pet's information, and I will also just add in the pet name here. And let's see. And we'll also pull in the dosage stuff here. So this is great because like we haven't been able to see any aggregatable data yet. And so I'll join dosage units on the m.dosage unit equaling the du.id. Let's see. So let's change this up a little bit. Select p.name as pet, medication.name as medication, and then concat dosage amount. So that'll be m.dosage amount with the dosage unit. So du.name. Let's see. And that's all that I will select for now, but it's kind of nice because like we've got everything that's just like many to many to many just linked all over the place, and it's just nice to be able to have data in my database and to be able to actually select and retrieve some data. So wow, this is really, really nice, not gonna lie. Yep. And I mean, there's still so much work left, you know, to be done in this project. And we're still in the first like half of just the backend alone. But this is a beautiful sight to see. So I might actually call it here at that. And after that, we'll go ahead and we'll start getting scheduling established. After which point, I might go ahead and start working on the UI. Normally, I like to create the entirety of the backend all in one fell swoop and then do UI development. But I feel like I kind of need to experience like the UI workflow in order to better tailor how I want the backend to be performed, which is a really big deviation in my usual development style. But anyway, thank you for hanging out with me in this video. It's a lot more exciting now that I've actually got data in my database, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to actually have that and to be able to run a select to start pulling some of that together. So as always, thank you for watching, and until the next video, be well.